Hey everyone, welcome back to the Fleetway Sonic experience. And folks, it's been a little bit of time since we've last touched these comics, but things have been like a little bit of a roller coaster ride in terms of quality. Let's say, let's be frank here. The comics have been put us in a pretty interesting situation that Aaron and I just discussed off screen how we need to restructure going forward. However, for the time being, we're going to be reading it as it is intended to be read, quote unquote, by issue for now. But when we get to issue 100, which is not going to be the next episode after this, we're going to have a nice long discussion about how we're going to restructure and reformat everything. But that's going to be for another time moving forward. For now, we actually do have a pretty good set of comics, in my opinion. The stories are actually like fairly strong. The writing is pretty good, all things considered. And I'm going to be very surprised. I was genuinely surprised when I saw this. But we actually now have, this is going to be shocking, guys, synergy with these comics. The stories actually do kind of coincide with each other, which is shocking.
Yeah, this is the first set of comics where it feels like they're actually trying to tie the secondary stories into the main story and have somewhat like Archie did, where there's two concurrent plot lines. Except the two concurrent plot lines aren't normal Sonic shenanigans and the worst writing you've ever seen in your entire life.
Yeah. Do you want to just like go right into it? Because I mean, like I said, interesting stuff here, actually. Well, let's start with Sonic the Comic, issue number 87, folks. So our first story brought to us by Kitching and Elsing, of course. Sonic, our boy Sonic here. He is still on the planet Meridian. Omni-viewers out of action with Supersonic being held. He has no way back to Mobius now. Hopefully, the Freedom Fighters are still able to hold on to Robotnik without him. More on that later. But he hears some screaming in the street, runs down a building, and startles a kid, and tells his mom about it, but the mom yells at him for making things up once again. Which, on the ground, Sonic finds the source of the scream, which is a girl about to get shot at. Which also, this has really nothing to do with anything, but in the art, it shows Sonic running with his arms back behind him, in the same way that, like, he does it in Sonic Adventure 1, which this issue predates by 3 years. I don't know, that's just a weird thing I noticed, but that's interesting. The trigger is pulled, the girl is fine, and Sonic intercepts it, grab the bullet in midair. And the guy disrobes this guy who calls himself Mr. Shifter, who is a changer from the Black Zone. Skin is like a purplish solid liquid kind of thing. Sonic thinks it's plasticine, but he says his body is made out of meta clay and hardened his skin to punch Sonic down and can soften himself to let Sonic pass through his body. And while he would have silently had Sonic not interfered, now he has to pay the price.
Why does he look like Ivan Ooze?
He does. What the hell?
Bro, he's Ivan Ooze, bro. You can't tell me that you don't see this guy and you're like, damn, Ivan Ooze looking ass and motherfucker.
Now Sonic has to take hard punches down over and over as he's held down. The last resort that he has is to grab Shifter's arm and spin him around at super speed, which weakens the elasticity. All pulled out, Sonic ties into a pole and pulls his body all over the area and lets go, but does notice that the girl he saves did not stick around to thank him. Because we now skip over to Robotnik's Citadel, a warp gate activates near him, and out comes the girl Sonic saved. Reporting to Robotnik, an invasion of a special zone will not go well, because their forces are just too powerful, and perhaps we should build up a power base on Mobius first. But she does begin to walk with him, and says, I do have something of interest to report. You'll never guess who I stumped into in New Tech City. Robotnik is going to have a very normal reaction to what the news is. That's all I'm going to say for now.
Yeah, very normal reaction. I hope you guys like Westerns, because Cowboy Knuckles real. Where is his cowboy hat? Where's cowboy hat? Where cowboy hat?
Yeah. So, this next story, Kitching wrote, Dobbin did the art. Knuckles, he's in the Great Mobian Prairie. He's heading up to the Metropolis Zone to go directly to the floating island from there. He's worried that everything was okay in his absence, as he's still dragging along the documents he got from Plunder. He feels the ground shake and thinks an earthquake is happening. But we actually see a full-page spread of Knuckles being trampled by this like Gigantosaurus penguin looking motherfucker. They look like an animal right out of like Avatar The Last Airbender, in all honesty. This is crazy.
Yeah, I think it's like meant to be like, it's like a cross between like a dodo bird and like a penguin. It's like, yeah, it definitely feels like an Avatar ass animal.
We then see these two ranchers that are flying overhead on some pterodactyls, looking for their third guy. He got lost in the stampede, they assume. But they land, they see he's perfectly fine. This guy here, who is a rooster, simply named Rooster.
Wow, thank you. So creative.
He doesn't know what made the herd stampede through. Knuckles buries himself for protection and meets these three ranchers, and they assume he was the cause for the stampede, thinking he was sent by Boss Crouch. In retaliation, they hogtie Knuckles and electrocute him with a branding iron.
Normal.
Okay, this, you know what? Shit just keeps happening to Knuckles. Like, what's like, he's like, really just having a world tour.
Have you ever read JoJo's Bizarre Adventure part 7?
Yeah, of course I have.
Okay, so is this not just D4C Love Train?
Oh no.
So all the bad stuff that's supposed to happen to Archie Knuckles gets redirected to Fleetway Knuckles.
That makes too much sense. I'm a little angered by that.
Dude, look, all I'm saying is that D4C Love Train is real, and it can hurt you.
So you know what? Why don't you guys, stomach that a little bit? Rooster here, he admits they don't really have much proof for Knuckles' case, but they're short on time, and they need to get these animals are called Apteryxes. They need to get their Apteryx herd back to Metropolis, because this guy's not trustworthy. So not being far from Backwater City, the sheriff will know what to do with him. Rooster, keep driving the herd, the rest of them will take Knuckles back. And as they go for their separate ways, Knuckles, hanging from the pterodactyl, just simply asks, why do these things keep happening to me? And Knuckles, our answer is D4C Love Train.
C Love Train. I will, before we end, I will say that I actually, aside from Chico, which, by the way, great not racist name. I love the 90s. Aside from Chico, I actually like the design of Rooster and Quickly. It's they're actually not horrible designs.
Oh no, they're pretty good. And in fact, you know what? As a Latino, I give them the pass. Chico, you have the pass. Anyway, so that's the Knuckles story done for now. Story C, our Tails story with Stringer and Flint. Folks, you're not going to believe what the fuck is going on in this goddamn story. We open on Tails, my boy Tails, swooping down, saving what happens to be a unicorn wizard from a badnik attack. One badnik swarms him, dunks it in a nearby river, gets entrapped by another one, as this, guy releases some palm energy, frees Tails. And he's thankful, though he thought he was saving him, and introduces himself as Forlock, a visitor to these parts. And he asks about the energy from his hand, but Forlock explains, well, I have special abilities, including the ability to grant a wish, to thank Tails for helping him. And Tails thinks for a second. He wants to wish for a Mobius free of Robotnik's evil. And he wants to make it so. As we skip to a room, the two of them in there.
Oh my god, no! This is so crazy!
Tails has been given a sniper rifle and is being pointed out the window. Forlock has given Tails the ability to make his wish come true, to get rid of Robotnik once and for all by fucking JFKing him.
Take the shot, Tails. Take the shot.
How did you come up with this, man? How did you think of this?
So I just want to let you know they came up with this for two reasons. One, they were really thinking about that JFK assassination and said, what if we introduce some morality into the JFK assassination for some reason? And two, the other reason they came up with this, because they fucking could. This is the 90s, and this is the wildest shit I've ever seen. See, if Sega wants to talk about reasons for not reprinting this comics, I think this would be Exhibit A.
It's like, okay, I think I understand. I get it, guys. But seeing Tails with just not a photorealistic, but a realistically drawn sniper rifle. Yeah, I see what you guys mean. I understand what you mean when you say the brand does not exactly match what the energy that this story is giving us. I understand. So Forlock explains here, Tails, my young friend, all you have to do is pull the trigger. And Robotnik will never menace the planet Mobius ever again. And we see the literal crosshairs. This is Tails' opportunity to bring freedom to the whole world.
He's just gotta take the shot, man. Just take the shot.
But Tails throws the gun away. I'm not going to go through with this. This is wrong. And then in another flash, they're back in the open field, and Forlock says, my young friend, this was all a test, and you passed. Had you pulled the trigger, you would have just become as evil and ruthless as Robotnik. I'm not going to comment on that. Forlock levitates in the air, and he tells Tails, follow your good instincts, and your wish will come true one day. And Tails asks, what zone on Mobius are you from? And as he vanishes, he said, I never said I was from a zone on Mobius. And Tails just walks away from the situation, thinking, what would have happened if I took the shot? I guess the easiest targets aren't always the right ones to aim for.
So, like, what the fuck were they smoking when they made this, man?
Yo.
Like, they must have been in that room, like, hitting the booth and being like, yo, so, like, what if we came up with a story where Tails has to do a JFK assassination? But, like, it wasn't actually the JFK assassination. It was a test of morality. And then Tails had to come to the conclusion that, you know, oh, maybe I shouldn't take the shot and kill him because that's just as bad as Robotnik. Like, what if? And then they did it. Okay, so, like, is this Pender's tier? Like, look.
I think we're, like, approaching that. We're approaching it.
Like, this story specifically has that energy. And, like, I can't tell, like, if this is a shitpost or if this is real. And that's when you know it's approaching that.
Yeah. I mean, still, like, it wasn't bad. It was just really out there. You see, this is another thing that we talk about when we're talking about, like, Fleetway Sonic, is that we can have, like, okay enough stories that are just like, yeah, it was fine, you know, nothing wrong. And then we get, like, blindsided by stuff like this, where Tails JFK's Robotnik. And this is not the first time we've gotten a story that's just insane like this, and we just have to move on from it.
I mean, it's one of those things where it's like, like this is why we're going to be talking about stuff in episode 100, or after issue 100, and our plans for the comic after. Because when we get hit with this, I don't think we can mentally recover.
Yeah. But, like, in the structure that, again, we're getting a little ahead of ourselves, but, like, could you imagine they're, like, reading a string of, like, these normal Tales stories, right? Where it's just, like, one little thing after the other. And it's like, you know, what happened here? What was the last story that I can remember? Like, Tails ends up being reversed through time and experiences stuff like that's a little odd, right? But, like, it's structured normally. But then we get this. It's like,
we're having a normal one here today, folks. This is a great day for comics, man. You can tell that we're just, like, having, like, a completely normal day of comics as we witness Tails attempt to commit a JFK assassination.
All right, stunlock over. Let's move on from this.
Sure, fine.
So our D story, which we're following up on Mobius 50 years later here, folks.
Nah, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. No, we're not doing that. We're not going back to that.
Stringer and Corona, folks. So the Doctor confirms that this person is in fact Sonic from the future, and Sonic refuses to believe it, thinking that what if this is somebody like Metamorphia? But Tails says, no, she lost her powers like some time ago. Future Sonic demands Sonic, shut up and listen to what I have to say. And Sonic's just like, okay, you know what, man? I'll listen. What do you have to say? When he was younger, this future Sonic was, he, the Freedom Fighters, and Shortfuse were answering a distress call from the Candlewick Green Zone, some drill weapon burrowing itself into the streets. Sonic orders the call to attack, ignoring potential danger, and suddenly a bright beam fires. It misses Sonic, but hits everyone else, killing them instantly. Atomizing them, really.
That's crazy, dog.
And in the shock, Sonic just surrenders himself to the troopers, not resisting. And with no one to stop him, Robotnik became an even more brutal dictator, and Sonic was left prisoner for many, many years. He tried to escape several times, but they all failed, and only his most recent one was successful. And Sonic stops him, saying, well, hold on a second here. If you really are me, I would never put my friends on the line like you did. Which Future Sonic says, hey, look, I made a bad choice, and they paid the price, and I want to set things right. I want to change history. And Amy asks Future Sonic how you managed to come back in time, which Future Sonic basically says like he pulled a flashpoint and ran faster than ever to travel back in time.
Cap, you can tell something's off just by that explanation. It's Cap.
Yeah, because he also explained in the last episode, he explained the time stones. So he has two versions of the same story.
Same story, exactly, yeah.
Anyway, Sonic still doesn't believe anything he's saying, but Future Sonic, regardless of anything, intends to change history himself. The Freedom Fighters naturally follow him, Future Sonic saying at this point, the drill is being built, and he wants to find the factory that's building it so his Freedom Fighters don't get zapped in it by their future. Sonic comes behind them, trying to argue against the plan, but everyone deters to Future Sonic, him saying to follow the Hedgehog with more experience. They go to the underground under Candlewick Green Zone. Future Sonic says this place has the factory building the machine, and Amy whispers to Tails and Johnny thinking that maybe their Sonic was right. Something doesn't feel right here. Johnny is still willing to give it a chance, though Tails thinks it's weird he hasn't been called Pixel Brain yet. That's what happens when you're too used to the abuse, folks. It's normalized. It's sad. It's real sad.
Normalized abuse. Yeah, come on, man. Like, oh, he's not berating my existence. The fuck? It's like, yeah, bro. He sure isn't.
They reach a dead end as Future Sonic burrows his way through the rock, and on the other side, he says he's delivered the outlaws to him, Master. Freedom Fighters are surrounded, and now, shocker, Future Sonic has turned tail. He works for Robotnik now.
Who could have seen this coming?
I mean, not a bad twist, I suppose.
Yeah, it's not a bad twist in theory.
Yeah. I mean, right, maybe the structure needs a little bit more to be said, but, you know, on paper, good twist. And that's the end of issue 87. Let's go to 88, folks. What's happening to our boys the Chaotix? What's going on with them?
Let's start with a Charmy B story, aka how mean can Sonic the Hedgehog be to this small child?
Our A story with Nigel Kitching both writing and doing the art.
So this is something that's pretty funny in that, since Sonic is completely separated from everyone else, he's just casually chilling with the fucking Chaotix now. So this is an odd pairing you do not get to see often.
Yeah, you know, like even back in the Archie days, Sonic barely interacted with the Chaotix, you know?
Well, yeah, that's because they were attached to the hip to Mr. God Savior himself, you know?
Anyway, that aside, so Sonic comes back to the Chaotix base and sees that Super Sonic changed position from when he was frozen, and Charmy agrees. Yeah, I saw him look different a while ago, and Vector angrily asks Charmy, why didn't you say anything? Well, because every time I tell you stuff, you yell at me. That's ridiculous. I never yell at you, Vector yells.
Okay, Cope, stop mauling Vector. Come on, buddy.
So Sonic is just like, hey. Guys, let's focus here. SVO suggests that maybe Omni perhaps didn't stop time, but just slowed it down to an extreme crawl. And if that's the case, we're going to be in big trouble when Super Sonic gets free. And suddenly, Mighty finds like some box at his feet, never seeing it before. Against anyone's better judgment, he opens it, and the Chaotix are subject to visions of their worst fears. Sonic not in its proximity is not affected, and out of the box steps Sidewinder and his boys, having shrunk themselves down to fit in the box thanks to Knack's supply. They came to recover Super Sonic, with Sidewinder intending to enslave him. With Sonic's like, hey, dude, that's not really a good idea. He's gonna kill you, and then destroy the planet. Sidewinder's boys square up to fight Sonic, and he's able to handle them all by himself, as the Chaotix are still subject to those nightmare visions. Biohazard fires some toxic goop from his mouth. It misses Sonic, and hits Sidewinder directly and knocks him out. And it's very potent, so they have to detox him, so they all retreat. A very weird way to travel, Sonic thinks. With the disappearance of the box, the Chaotix mind clears out, and Sonic tells them about what happened. On top of Sidewinder wanting to use Super Sonic, he also tells them that he mentioned someone else, Knack the Weasel. So that's the string we're gonna follow from here on out. Anyway, Knuckles Wild West. What's happening with our boy? Kitching and Dobbing again. Knuckles is arrested in Backwater City, and being left in a solid steel cell, he can't really dig through it. The ranchers that brought him tell the deputy about the situation. Yeah, we don't really have proof about Knuckles starting the stampede, but we brought him here just in case. And at the same time, in comes the mayor, and also the deputy's father, to see this new prisoner, thinking Knuckles here looks like a real desperado, would sell out his own kin. Oh, nice to meet you too, man.
Wow, what the fuck? Why would you... What is this energy right now, man? Like, what are we doing here?
Very uncalled for. He's the last of his kind. Very uncalled for. He also comments that Rooster had a lucky escape from the stampede, considering we're in the same line of business, and on top of having the second largest Apteryx herd next to me. And as he leaves, Rooster's left alone with Knuckles, and he asks him that this guy, Crouch, are you in the same business? And, if he were to have an accident, Crouch would have the market all to himself. And Rooster, gets what Knuckles is saying, but, we gotta wait for the sheriff to settle this. And later that night, at the saloon, Cheeto, one of the ranchers here, meets with Crouch, telling him that Rooster was in the middle of the herd when the stampede started, and still made it out alive. But of course, Crouch wants him done for good. No one interferes with my business. Cheeto worries that the sheriff will figure out what's going on when he gets back. And as far as Knuckles goes, Crouch is going to take care of him. We then see Knuckles being approached by a large group of the townspeople who bind his wrists, drag him outside, telling Knuckles, here, we make our own rules. You kill one of our folk, you deserve to be dragged through the mud. And they bring Knuckles to a tree. They are going to lynch him and drag him up onto a box. And before anything can happen, the rope breaks, shot at by the sheriff. I leave town for a few days and I get back to this. Now everyone get home before I lock you all up. And as for Knuckles, who is, trying to heal the rope burns from his neck, Sheriff, man, I got some complaints I need to launch to you.
I will say, and I gotta say this about this comic, I think the character designs that they nailed for this Wild West setting are actually all really good, and I think that's really consistent. It's typical Western attire, but I think it has a really good vibe to it.
Oh, no, yeah, it all, kind of, feels natural. It feels like a good story in and of itself, but, Knuckles is the odd one out here. His design does not mesh well with everyone else.
But I think that's obviously intentional, and I think that does create, a good contrast there, where he does feel like the fish out of water in that sense. And I think for Knuckles stories, that's kind of, what you want to go for, considering, he's isolated and stuff like that. So yeah, put him into these weird sort of situations where he kind of has to think and figure his way out of these kind of uh-oh, what's going on here?
Yeah, Knuckles is just sort of at best he's a passive observer, at worst he's being dragged into bad situations that he has to work his way out of. And that does make for a good Knuckles story, especially in this era. And so we'll move on from that. Another Tales story with Stringer and Corona. We open in a forest, and we meet a Grimer's similar-looking cousin by the name of Slimy, who's also a scientist and wants to work for Robotnik, intending to take his cousin's position. He looks for a target for his new weapon, comes across Tails, calls him his new guinea pig, and he fires at Tails, who finds himself shrinking down to the size of an ant. Slimy calls the test a success. Tails gets his bearings and has to run away from an ant that he thinks is trying to eat him, and upon flying up to see his environment, is next to a robot Slimy built, calling his Hulko droid, terrorizing this village. Definitely this will get Robotnik's attention, and will get his cousin's job. And Tails, being so small, doesn't know if he can fight it directly, but seeing a little gap in the armor, he's able to slip in and get into the internals of the system. Tails doesn't really know what wire is which, but it doesn't really matter. So he's just ripping wires apart and fries the robot's systems, and flies out, turning him back to normal size. So Slimy turns the shrink ray on to full power, intending to shrink Tails into infinity, but he dodges, the laser beam bounces off the robot's armor and hits Slimy directly, and is now shrunken down to atomic size. Tails did not directly kill him, so I think he can sleep well tonight.
Can he not sleep well tonight, knowing that he didn't just completely and totally kill a man, technically?
He can't think of that. He's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
It's fine. I'm fine.
The villagers thank Tails for his effort, and Tails, of course, says it really is the little things that make a difference. This fucking kid has something to say about everything, doesn't he?
Yeah, he really does. Yeah, certified fucking yapper if there ever was one.
And let's finish off this little future story Stringer and Corona did. Amy calls future Sonic a lowlife for selling them out to Robotnik, but this Sonic, having seen his friends killed, truly believes that the only way for peace is just to follow Robotnik, which Robotnik does relish in hearing that. Future Sonic, though, asks what he means, but Robotnik admits that you're not a Sonic from the future. You're just a clone, dude. We created you. Robotnik swiped Sonic's DNA from the last time he was captured and grew him in a test tube. But the process is not refined, it aged you way too rapidly. So we brainwashed you into thinking you're from a future with false memories. And Tails can corroborate, saying that the test that they ran perfectly matched Sonic's DNA, with future Sonic thinking that just proves how good of a clone he was in the end. So considering he still has Sonic's memories and powers, tears into the Badniks and is able to escape. But the Freedom Fighters are left behind, being trapped behind a bomb door with Robotnik and Grimer. Miles away, Sonic wonders if he did the right thing to let him go with his supposed future self, which that guy arrives and catches him up on what happened. With future Sonic aging at a faster rate, we don't have much time, and they do find the Freedom Fighters being marched by troopers, but are also guarded by Robotnik in a mech. Sonic goes to rescue his friends. Future Sonic fights Robotnik directly, trapping him in a tornado as a reward for the false memories. And he can escape via eject. He flies off, as Future Sonic has now been totally worn out. And for the record, from like that moment forward, we did see Future Sonic being like colored in a lot more grayer as we saw him, which is a very good touch. Very nice.
Yes.
The Freedom Fighters are free, but Sonic looks behind, and the clone has now totally keeled over and apologizes for tricking him. But he's like, hey man, you pulled through when we needed you, and that makes you A-okay in my book. And then the clone passes on. His body turns into pure energy, which launches up into the sky, being left behind as a star in the sky. And while he was a fake, Sonic thinks maybe he should give us hope for the future, that maybe one day Robotnik will just be a bad memory. You know, that is what you just witnessed, Sonic, is a very horrifying situation that most people would be normally met by their own mortality at that point, but Sonic's just like, nah.
It's fine, guys. It's fine.
It's all good, man. These kids are gonna need a lot of fucking therapy when they're done with this shit, man. Holy.
Jesus, man.
Issue 89 with Kitching and Elsing again. Sonic, he's able to make contact with the Freedom Fighters in the Chaotix base and catches them up with what's happened. He was, kinda able to defeat Super Sonic. We were able to trick him in a time stock because of Omni, but didn't fully stop time, slowed it down to a crawl, so I have to stay in the special zone until we can work out a plan to fully defeat him. Espio calls Sonic over, disconnects, and joins the Chaotix in their mobile ship, which for some reason is shaped like Charmy's head. I think there's a reason for that, but we'll get to that in a second, don't you worry. And they are going to hunt down for the Black Asteroid. I refuse to believe Sega got the idea for the Black Comic for this. I refuse to believe it.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe they just said, it's fine. We'll just nobody will have read the funny British comic. So we can just use the ideas from it, yeah? Everyone's like, alright, I guess.
The asteroid was once the largest gemstone mine in Mobius, and now is just a series of tunnels, and this tunnel is now the only way in. Their plan is to just dump Super Sonic in the center of the asteroid, and when they leave, we'll set up a graviton bomb, which should seal off the main tunnel. They're not 100% confident in this, but anything's worth a shot, until the ship feels like a little hit. Ezio patches off as just the special zone is just being littered with junk, so like, don't worry about it, man, it's worth nothing. But outside, we see Knack has tacked himself onto the ship, having shrunken himself down, breaking in from an inspection hatch. He slips inside, as Vector does bring the ship into the asteroid, driving very, very carefully to not hit the walls. And we see then a panel of Knack. The boy looks locked the fuck in, saying Sidewinder paid him to retrieve Super Sonic. Crazy, yes, but he's paying crazy high. Knack then reveals himself to the Chaotix. He escaped prison yet again, and disabled them by shrinking the Chaotix all down, and Sonic as well. Obviously, Vector can't fly the craft at this size, and warns for a brace for impact. They all take a thrashing, but after the crash, he entraps the Chaotix in the same bauble he flew in on, Sonic having escaped, and now Knack is on the hunt for him. Crazy breakdown, I guess.
Yeah, that's definitely an interesting scenario if there ever was one.
And Wild West Knuckles, I love this one. Kitching and Dobbing, of course. The sheriff is dragging his deputy back to the jail, raving at him for dragging a prisoner through the streets to lynch him. And I think they do directly say lynching him, which is
Yeah, I mean, listen, guys, in 2024, like,
This is, look, I know it's the 90s, but like, okay, you know what? I kind of want to like ask about this. We've talked a lot about the mandates, quote unquote, that came from like Archie, even classic Archie. What were the regulations for fucking like Fleetway
no
Sonic?
regulations,
it feels like
none.
Sega of Europe had to be like the ones like in charge of this, I assume, right?
I mean, the Brits were probably fine with all this shit, bro. They were just like, I don't care, do whatever the fuck you want, I guess.
Actually, you know what? I think I may know what's up, because I think Sega of Europe is headquartered in Germany. So maybe there's a language barrier going on there.
It would be insane if they got away with a ton of stuff just because the Germans were like, yeah, we don't know what the fuck they're on about.
It's just like, yeah, let them do whatever. I don't... Anyway, the sheriff rips off the deputy's badge and gives it to Knuckles, offering him the job. And folks, it breaks my heart to say this, but ACAB does include Knuckles, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately.
So the sheriff warns Rooster about the attempt on his life, thinking Cheeto was behind it. And since that day, he just vanished. Either way, I gotta get this herd to Metropolis by the end of the week, or I'm gonna miss the market. Then in the saloon, they hear the patrons gossip over that it may have been Crouch's men who tried to string Knuckles up, who just walks into the bar, agreeing with them. And I gotta say, the art of Knuckles and the little deputy's vet, he's very adorable. He's cute. He looks like a little plush toy. I love it.
Yeah, we need we need some art. We need some like official merch of this. You know, that's what I'm saying. Sega's been big about their merch lately, man. If y'all want to sell, have the shit sell like hotcakes, give Knuckles a little vest.
Yeah, it's great. I love it. Sheriff says that he shouldn't leave town until we figure out what's been going down here. So Knuckles offers to help. The bartender gives Knuckles a shot, but he's like, "No, man. I just want to find Chico." Who he happens to pull up behind him with a gun pointed to the back of his head. Knuckles asks him, "Didn't your folks warn you against playing with guns?" And smacks it away as it lands in someone's beer. And it spills onto another person's suit, pissing him off. The whole bar is in a fight. In the chaos, Knuckles is able to grab Chico and drags him outside. Chico is just like, "Okay, look, man, I'll talk. Just listen to me. Crouch was trying to kill Rooster. He left town and tried to finish the job, okay?" And with that information, Knuckles heads out. So our boy's got a plan now. It's a bar fight. Interesting solution to the problem, I guess.
I mean, it's the only solution to the problem. The fuck you mean? It's a Western, bro.
Now to this next story with Stringer and Flint being the creative team. This is now what I'm talking about, guys. This is where finally, after, what are we at? After almost 90 issues of this comic, we finally get synergy with all the stories here. And you'll see what I mean by this. So we open, because of Sonic being stranded in the Special Zone, the Freedom Fighters have had to pick up the slack and are engaged with a Badnik horde. They're outnumbered, Tails knocked out of the sky, Amy snatched up into the air, and Johnny trying to chuck his staff to knock that Badnik out from the sky, but misses. He tells Tails to fly to catch up to it, but being knocked out from the sky kind of got the wind out of him. And Johnny thinks that without Sonic, they're not strong enough to fight, but they don't give up despite being surrounded. And Amy struggles for freedom until the Badnik that caught her is shot down. And in freefall, she's caught by Short Fuse. Good timing, because we could really use the help. Johnny and Tails barely handle the Badniks, but with Amy and Short Fuse joining back in, quick work is made. And after taking them all out, Amy offers Short Fuse the chance to join the Freedom Fighters since Sonic disappeared. And he does refuse again, but considering the circumstances and Robotnik being such an opportunist, I think it may be best that for now, I'll stick around and we can fight Robotnik together. This is what I mean is like finally we get some synergy now. We're finally referencing the fact that Sonic has been kind of MIA for the past good couple issues. This is kind of something that I think has obviously been really missing here. Is that it does not feel, the stories don't necessarily feel very cohesive. The Sonic and Knuckles stories, Sonic, Knuckles, and Tails stories, they all feel like they could be happening like coinciding with each other. But now finally, it seems that, Stringer has kind of gotten the memo and be like, all right, fine, I'll play along, I guess. I'll make this thing feel cohesive. And that's not me saying like to talk down on his work. That's not the point. I'm simply saying that like it's good that finally after all this time it all can feel like everything's like locked in.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much how I feel at this point. It's like, there's nothing wrong with the stories feeling a little disconnected from time to time. There is something wrong when the stories are so disconnected that it almost feels exhaustive in that regard. So, yeah. I'm glad that they're trying to make things more connected and more interesting in that.
Continuing on with issue 90. We're 90 issues deep here. Story A with Kitching and Elsing. So, Knack, trapped the Chaotix in his tiny little bauble, looks for the shrunken down Sonic, who has little options left to fight. But against his better judgment about freeing Supersonic, Sidewinder is paying him a fortune to retrieve Supersonic, so of course he's down. Overhearing this, Sonic does what he can against Knack, homing attacking him across the face. It does some damage, but he can't get the full speed like this. Does another hit, which knocks Knack's hat off his head, and notices across the brim are the charge casings for the shrink ray. And he opens a capsule, which directly hits Knack, and he's shrunk down to Sonic's size. but he was exposed to it for way too long and continues to get smaller and smaller. Eventually tries to tell Sonic to reverse it with a green capsule, but he can't hear him as he continues to shrink, and in Sonic's word, shrunk to nothing. This has happened twice now.
How has Knack shrunk into nothing twice now? Is Knack just a fucking jobber in these comics, man?
I think that's what he is. I think it's interesting that he is, like, technically a very competent, like, individual, but gets caught in very funny situations.
Is this just the fate of this character? Is he just eternally jobber tier? Is he like like Vegeta, only worse?
Oh no, why do we gotta keep doing this? Well, anyway, as now Knack is dealt with, eventually the Chaotix and Sonic revert back to normal, Vector using the capsules correctly this time, and take off in their ship once again and reach the center of the asteroid. They set the charges. Mighty comments that what we're doing to Supersonic, we're also doing to Omni, so I hope he knows what we're doing, and he can escape at the last second, assuming Supersonic will let him. They leave the asteroid, they set the bomb, and once it's charged off, hopefully Supersonic is sealed off for good. Though Mighty adds, once Supersonic is freed, and he sees what happened, he'll be madder than ever before, which Sonic is like, let's just not think about that for now, alright, man?
Me when the consequences of my own actions come to bite me in the ass.
Me when I try to bury a burrowing animal.
Curious.
I wonder how that'll resolve itself. Anyway, our B story with Kitching and Dobbing. So at night, Rooster has gotten settled into camp, en route to Metropolis to sell his Apteryx meat. Crouch sees him overhead, and intending to become the only supplier of that meat, tell the boys to follow him. However, Cheeto catches up to Crouch, getting scolded as he was about to take care of Rooster personally, and Cheeto warns him that Knuckles is catching on to him, and thought you could use a little help. However, Crouch says he already had his chance to kill Rooster, and he blew it. To clarify, I ask again, you told Cheeto to kill Rooster, and Crouch goes, yeah, I did. What are you talking about? Well, sounds like a confession to me, as Cheeto was Knuckles in disguise and the sheriff right behind him, telling him and his boys to stand down and come quietly. Knuckles, though, chases after Crouch, who made a break for it, and corners him cliffside. Tells Knuckles, stand back or I'm gonna use this vial. This is the scent of the Apteryx's most feared predator, but 100 times more potent. One whiff of this, it's gonna trigger a stampede. Rooster's not gonna stand a chance. But the guy is on weak soil, which gives out and he falls into the ravine. And Knuckles tells him just give it up, and before he's able to even shoot at Knuckles, he sees down at his feet the vial broke, which sends the loud Apteryxes to stampede toward him, and doesn't really make it out of their way. And Knuckles is very clearly, visibly shocked at the sight of this.
You watched a man die in cold fucking blood, man. I mean,
he basically watched the guy turn to mush, effectively.
If he turned to mush, he turned to mush. If he dies, he dies.
And later, Rooster comments to the sheriff, at least it saved the cost of a trial. But Knuckles, he has been clearly altered by seeing a man be trampled to death. All he says is, like, yeah, it was not a pretty sight. So I guess we have to loop Knuckles into the therapy bill too now.
Yeah, every Sonic character eventually goes through the therapy session, man.
But Rooster thankfully kept Knuckles' chest safe and comments that it seems pretty heavy and offers to help lighten his load. And how we end this little story off, we see Knuckles riding on a pterodactyl, flying high, assumedly straight back to the floating island. So I suppose this is the end of Knuckles' little world tour arc, and honestly, it actually was pretty good, all things considered.
Yeah, I mean, something that I am sort of enjoying with Knuckles as a character in Archie,
Oof.
in Fleet, sorry, you won't be hearing that from me. Something that I am actually enjoying about Knuckles in Fleetway is that he really is just kind of, we're fucking around and we're finding out, and whatever happens, happens. And as far as I'm concerned, that's actually pretty effective as a character trait for him. You know, the whole exploratory aspect of him is something that like gets brought up, and I think they do a pretty good job with it in this comic.
Yeah, and I mean, another interesting point is that Knuckles in like Fleetway is like infinitely more competent, like just as a person, like compared to like Archie or like even like kind of currently. Like Knuckles is like still pretty solid now, but even like this is still kind of like leaves beyond like what we get with Knuckles, you know?
Yeah, I mean, he really is just the guy. Like, positive, not derogatory.
Yeah. We like it. And we'll end off this issue with this last story from Stringer and Corona. We're following up still with Short Fuse being part of the Freedom Fighters now. At night in Metropolis, Johnny is in disguise, being called out into an alleyway, getting info from a dealer. They make their exchange and tells Johnny that Robotnik has a new weapon at the ready and it'll be marched through the gum tree zone in 2 days. And as Johnny leaves, Robotnik comes out from the shadows, telling this literal rat that his loyalty will be rewarded. Very clever, making this guy a rat. Very, very clever.
Very, 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 very funny. Funny little rat, dude. Funny little rat guy.
2 days later, they're following based on their intel, seeing troopers move through a box in the zone. Short Fuse is detecting some robot in there and tries to open fire right then and there. Short Fuse isn't as impatient as Sonic is, clearly, and they follow suit. Tails noticing that the shooting almost missing deliberately. Short Fuse seems like the troopers are letting us win. After Johnny and Amy finish off their troopers, they check out this box supposedly containing Robotnik's secret weapon. But a punch goes through the box, it breaks open, and reveals a second cyberneck named Vermin. And Johnny recognizes this voice. This is the rat that gave me this information to begin with. And Short Fuse assumes that he was roboticized against his will. But Vermin says, no, I willingly went through with this. I am much, much stronger than your inferior model.
Oh.
Okay. All right. We're kind of cooking here. Are we kind of cooking? Yeah, we're kind of cooking.
Yeah, I think we are, yeah.
Let's keep following up here, and we have a very interesting, Charmy-centered story, folks.
So, okay, I think maybe it's time that we have a short dialogue about Charmy B. So, what is up with this character? Can we just talk about for a second how, there have been 5 different iterations of this character, and all of them are weird or jank in some fashion, right? So, what? We have the Archie version of the character, pre-brain damage Smile, where he was a prince, and then had a wife, and then got brain damage and became the game character version of Charmy, right? So we have the game character version of Charmy, who is small babby child. And then we have IDW, which is similar to the games. And now we have Fleetway, where everybody just fucking hates Charmy.
Yeah, everyone seems like they just are irritated by his presence, which is interesting. I mean, it's weird because they are basing Charmy's characterization off Knuckles Chaotix Charmy, obviously. And in the character profile for that, he is actually much older. He is 16. So when they reintroduced characters for Sonic Heroes, he was just rebooted into being a younger child. I don't know why they went in that direction. I couldn't tell you, but it's a very weird redirection in my opinion.
I mean, there are some things that Sega does for their characters that always makes me be but why? Why did we need to do this? What was the point? I don't know, man. I think Charmy B is a character that maybe, this is gonna be a crazy statement, but I'm gonna say it raw. I don't give a fuck. I feel like if there's any character currently that maybe needs a little bit of a soft rework, maybe it's Charmy. I feel like we're kind of reaching that point that Charmy is sort of kind of there, and I don't know, maybe it's time we try something a little different.
That's why these late comics or the early comics for Sonic the Hedgehog, they're very, very good at fleshing out the side characters. Espio in Archie, great work was done with him there. Even Charmy was done pretty well. Vector is the only one out in which we really did not know anything about him. Even here too. So let's just wait and see, I suppose. But we're stalling here. Kitching and Corona are the creative team for this story. Late at night, Sonic is sleepless, having no way back to Mobius still, and looks out the window, and he sees a scene of Charmy supposedly being kidnapped, and he thinks to himself, well, no one would really miss him if he's gone. I could just walk away and, nothing. That's fucked up, man.
Yeah, that's fucked up. What the fuck?
And then until he decides, no, I gotta help him out. And even if he hates himself in the morning for this. Coming outside, Charmy is surrounded by 2 other bees. And they tell Sonic they've been sent by the queen bee to take Charmy back to the hive. So Sonic's like, well, I don't really think I should get involved in a family matter, and the other bee tells him that Charmy has broken the promise he made to the queen and must return to face her, emphasizing that he is in no danger. But Charmy adds there is a rule that says I can bring a friend along to speak for me. But Sonic's like, I'm not really his friend.
It's like this rat. Yeah, good one, buddy. Yeah, you really thought, huh?
You gotta get yourself out of this one. But jump cut. Sonic has been talked into this. Charmy is happy he changed his mind, and Sonic does kind of regret doing so. But they soon return to the beehive, which is Charmy's home before he joined the Chaotix. Then Sonic asks what kind of trouble is he in, and Charmy says it's complicated. Once they go inside, Sonic sees the worker bees up above seemingly making gold, which Sonic says, well, that's not possible. But Charmy says, no, it is possible if you know how to do it. Smile. Worker bees Charmy grabbed a while ago are usually sent into the special zone to collect ingredients. Then, when they come into the throne room, they're brought in front of the queen, and her whole court seemingly upset at Charmy's presence. Charmy tells the queen he does not want to live in the hive. I want to be with the Chaotix. And also calls her his mother. So, I'm gonna stop here. I'm just gonna write. Did they fucking yoink this too? Did they fucking take Charmy being a bee prince too? Like, what the fuck is this?
Which came first?
This.
How much material is stolen?
Okay, you know what? Hold on. I'm gonna write this down. Archie stole from Fleetway allegations.
Save it. We're saving it for the super episode that we eventually make. The one we do and we're done with all the comics. I feel like this is going to be a much larger discussion that has to be had. AKA, we are going to start a dialogue.
Gonna put that right next to Dr. Finitovis' Dr. Zachary. All right, great. Let's move on.
All right, epic, dude.
Epic. Let's see here. And let's also talk about the fact that he came from a family of fucking alchemists, too. Like, they're making gold. They're transmutating gold.
Oh, dude, the law of equivalent exchange. I love Full Metal Alchemist.
Which also, making gold is one of the alchemaic no-nos. So they are, this is a rogue alchemy suit here. What's going on here?
Full Metal Alchemist. Full Metal Alchemist.
Full Metal Alchemist. Okay, what are we doing? Sonic is surprised that Charmy is the bee prince and begs Sonic, please don't tell the rest of the guys. I don't want to be treated differently than them. You mean you like being yelled at all the time? But Sonic's like, no, they only act like I get on my nerves. Oh, you poor mistaken fool. Oh, no.
Blood said, I don't know about that one, Chief.
Well, his mom chastises Charmy. As the prince, you have responsibilities to the hive. You have to stay. But the talk is cut short as they get an alert from the guard saying that the hive is under attack. The wasps have returned. And these wasps are like... They just look like they're Mongolian. Like, this feels a little... I don't know about this one.
Nah, this kind of racist, though.
And these guys, they insist they won't be stopped, and they're being led by a wasp named Vesper. Perhaps these wasps are the alchemy police, and they're actually in the right here. I don't know. Who's to say?
What if they're just committing mass genocide for fun?
You guys can stomach with that. Let's move on to this next story. Kitching and Elsing both wrote it and Elson did the art. And it's a Captain Plunder focused story. And folks, I really gotta say, I've really warmed up to this guy. I really like him.
You know what? I gotta say, man, I was not about him for a long time. Like, I liked the design, and I liked it, but I often felt that he was intrusive on the plot. But you know what? I'll let him rock. He's funny enough.
Yeah, no, his presence is funny, and it does feel like very, like, out of place for a Sonic story, but, like, I don't know, he's funny. He's very funny.
The energy is kind of unmatched, I'm not gonna lie.
So true. So true. Well, New Tech City, the shores of the city. A pirate ship is making its way through the water. The ship, of course, of Captain Plunder. Mounted a star post on his ship, which is Flitch's idea, and now they're going to set out to become the most feared pirates in history, terrorizing even the multiverse now. So Plunder sets his crew out into the city to find new members to join the pirates. And they're stalking out an area, and they find a guy who they see is like kind of too skinny, but take him anyway. Plunder will have our hide if we come back empty-handed. Then at night, once they arrive, only bringing one guy back, Plunder telling them to dump him in the hold, we'll deal with him later. And the next morning, Plunder finishes his breakfast, Simpson being the one who cooked it, himself eating a whole fish. So, Simpson sticking around is also something I did not necessarily guess, but also Simpson being the Sanji of this whole thing is not a direction I expected either.
Oh, it's a One Piece moment. Alright, are we getting the power scalers involved? Dude, Simpson low diffs, Captain Plunder, he beats him in a fight, 9 out of 10 times, he's on fraud watch.
Look, all I'm saying is that, like, Simpson really is out of place here. He belongs in Smiling Friends. I'm saying it again, he belongs in Smiling Friends.
Smormu moment.
Plunder then tells Simpson get him a whole dozen of the Caribbean chocolate bars for dessert, and he does so before spitting out the fishbone stuck in his throat. Get a move on, Simpson, and stop being weird.
Bro, you're killing the vibe, bro.
He goes to the deck, tells the crew good morning, and they respond with telling him to drop dead. Man, nobody likes this guy.
Incredible.
And they open the food hatch, and they see the guy they kidnapped eating the chocolate, telling Simpson that they'll be hearing from his lawyer once I get out of here. In response to his sweets being eaten, Plunder orders the guy to walk the plank. Guy says, oh, you can't do this to me. I'm the famous alchemist Proctor Spectle, a name that actually Flitch is familiar with, and is then pushed into shark-infested waters, trying to free himself to take a transforming serum. The bottle uncorks in the water and has to drink it fast, as above water, Plunder wonders why the sharks are taking so long, ending the segment with Speckle having transformed into a monster, a shark in his mouth, and climbs back onto the ship. And Flitch remembers why that name was so familiar. This guy transforms himself into a monster named Mr. Fry, one of Sidewinder's men, to Plunder's shock and dismay.
I love Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
We love when things just happen, don't we, folks? Well, we'll continue on with the Cyberniks story here, Stringer and Corona are. The two Cyberniks face off, Shortfuse firing the first shot, and Vermin eats the hit, noting Robotnik did make him stronger than Shortfuse, firing a laser back that pushes Shortfuse down. And Amy helps him recover, and Tails goes in to fight back, but gets swatted out of the air by Vermin's tail. Shortfuse is back in, uppercuts Vermin, and begins to strike with his tail again, calling it his secret weapon, and injects the tail into Shortfuse's back, which electrocutes and disables him. And he injected a virus into Shortfuse's system. He cannot function now. Johnny fights back, thinking his not being a robot is an advantage here, but Vermin's eye lasers break Johnny's staff in half, wondering what would happen if he takes the hit directly. Now Amy tries her hand, firing her bow not at Vermin directly, but above, breaking a gum tree sack, letting the sap hit and directly begin to corrode his armor. So he retreats to Robotnik for repairs, as now we have to help Shortfuse, asking him to take him back to the Emerald Hill Secret Workshop. So they arrived there, they come back to Techno, and she tells them, I'm going to drain the virus out of his system, but it's going to take a couple days. So the Freedom Fighters tell Shortfuse, chill out, rest up for now, we'll handle Robotnik. And as for Shortfuse, he'll be ready for Vermin the next time he comes around, don't you worry. So while that is the end, that's actually a good dynamic now that Shortfuse has his own Shadow the Hedgehog, if you will.
Wow, it truly is Fearless the Year of Shadow.
I mean, no, but seriously, like, that is a good dynamic to follow. I hope this character does come back, because he does kind of need a foil, you know? Shortfuse just feels a little too, like, OP sometimes.
He definitely feels like the comic creator's favorites in a way. And I don't mean that necessarily in a negative way. It's more in a... if you're going to include this character, he's got to have some sort of foil or weakness against him that makes him feel more natural, you know?
Yeah. So, very welcome. Very welcome. Issue 92, folks, with our A-Story Kitchen and Corona. The talk with Charmy has been cut off as a wasp raid has hit the beehive, intending to steal their wealth, and the raise begins. The wasps easily overpower the bees, and seems like all hope is lost. One of the guards head to the throne room, telling her that while the main army is being held off, some have entered the hive, and suggests she leave the hive for her safety. And the queen refuses, but Sonic says, no, listen, that is a good idea. This would be the first place they go to. And of course, Vesper and his men arrive right on the spot, weapons at the ready, but with his speed, Sonic steals the weapons out of their hands and disables them all. Vesper, not intending to be made a fool of, goes right for Sonic, but trips him over, spins him in place, fully disoriented. And Vesper says, Sonic, you're not able to handle all of us, which Sonic is like, oh yeah, that's true. And he just surrenders on the spot. A queen is like, what do you mean surrender? But Charmy just tells her to play along. Sonic has got to have a plan here. Which Sonic admits, I really don't, but I'll think of something, alright, man?
Wow, he really said, I got this. I'll figure it the fuck out.
He tells Vesper to go outside and tell his men to organize a formal surrender, which Vesper says he made the right call. We may even go easy on you, but don't count on it. Any sign of a plan, Sonic? Yeah, grab a hold of something, okay? And Sonic positions himself at the choke point, spins loops around at the walls. His speed creates a wind tunnel, which blows the wasps out, and tells them to reseal the wall before they can regroup. And so, the Queen thanks Sonic for his efforts and invites him back to the hive whenever you want. And as for Charmy, you will remain here to carry out his princely duties. But Charmy says, well, hold on. Our tradition states that whenever an outsider saves the hive, we must grant whatever request they desire, right? And so, we skip outside. Sonic has decided to request Charmy he remains with the Chaotix. And as they leave, Charmy asks him, don't tell them that I asked you to come back with me. What, because you're too modest? No, because they'll kill me. Man, Charmy's just getting all the hate here. He doesn't deserve it. He's just a boy. Let him live.
Yeah, he really doesn't deserve this, man.
Let the kid live. He's having a good time. And he actually is a pretty competent fighter too. What is their problem with him? Do they just find him annoying?
I mean, yes, that's probably, like, what you assume, like, most of the group's problem is with him.
Whatever. Well, Kitching and Elsing wrote, and Elsing again did the art. Mr. Fry is beginning his rampage on Plunder's ship, and he orders the crew to go on the attack. Fletch, too, though him being a ghost, he can't really do much, you know? And he sees his men being thrown overhead, and his boys are just no match for this guy, and the beating continues even after the crew is clobbered. And he's seen beating the shit out of a shark he took out of the water, which Fry says these sharks are notorious for being tough eaters. Essentially, he was just tenderizing the meat, and asked, let's get this fish on the grill before it smells as bad as Dr. Speckle here. And Flitch was like, well, I thought you were Speckle. And Fry kind of flips his shit. It says, no, I am Mr. Fry. And Plunder's like, all right, man, just relax. Simpson grabs him. Don't mind the captain. He's just in one of his moods, and leads him down into the cooking galley. And then after some time passes, they emerge below deck, and they've grilled shark steaks, enough for the whole crew. And as they eat, Plunder apologizes for making him walk the plank, but Fry rationalizes, like, no, you made Speckle walk the plank, and I don't blame you for wanting the runt dead. And he explains that he drank the transformation serum as it broke underwater, but some of it was let loose in there. As for what happened to the leftover serum, Flitch may have an answer to that. There are other sharks in the water having transformed into monsters and are climbing up onto the ship. Oof.
Ah, I see. So they're cooked.
Ooh. Well, hey, you know what? At least they had a nice last meal. Though that was a big shark that they got, so that's good eating there.
Yeah. Well, we'll continue that in the next issue, but are you guys ready for one of the weirdest stories I've ever read in a Sonic comic?
I have no words for this.
I mean, I'm not gonna say anything. Just send it.
Stringer and Corona. Robotnik is told about Sonic being lost in the Special Zone, and he is enraged at this news, ordering the Mobium who told him the news to be roboticized. Grimer, though, is confused. He thought you'd be happy that Sonic is gone, but no, Robotnik says, I wanted to be the one to do it. Which, I want to actually comment on this. It is consistent, even to this day, every iteration of Robotnik, Eggman, what have you, the number one priority is he just wants to get it over on Sonic. It's not enough to just, kill him and take him out, you know? I could carpet bomb him any day, as he said. But the whole point here is to get one over and win over Sonic. That has always been consistent since day one. And I fuck with that. I like that.
As Archie Eggman said, it's all about the game. Just continue, please.
Though Grimer adds, many people will believe Sonic will return one day, and in keeping with his image, he wants to remind the people who is in charge around here, imagining a rocket with his image circumnavigating the globe to remind people who I am, and that I will always be in charge. So Grimer runs the numbers. It could be ready in about 6 months. Get it ready in 2. Get to it. And so, exactly 2 months later, the rocket is ready for launch. Grimer flips the switch, and they watch the rocket take off, but it's unable to get into the atmosphere, sputters out, and crash lands, destroying itself. Every player of Kerbal Space Program have experienced this, don't you worry, folks.
Every single one.
In his anger, he assumes it was sabotage, must have been the Fox or the Echidna. I want a thorough check on what went wrong, and a full report on my desk tomorrow morning. And that next morning, Grimer does come in with the report again. Robotnik insists that it was sabotage, but, as Grimer says, none of the outlaws were here yesterday. The failure came from that we were rushed, used cheap material, and did little or no testing to launch. And Robotnik does accept that, but demands the official report be that it's sabotage. That's the narrative I want it to be. Grimer, of course, ever a bureaucrat, is hesitant to file a false report, but Robotnik insists the official word be, I never make mistakes. Sometimes that means telling a few lies, but that's what being evil is all about. Folks, what's the message here? What's the
listen, man. Your first mistake was thinking that there was a message to be gained from this fucking comic. Look, I'm gonna keep it real, y'all. This is one of the most ridiculous comics I've ever read in my entire life. For several reasons, but the core one being, what were we doing? Like, what was the point of this? Was there a point of this? No? Cool.
Robotnik is just a little petty boy. That's all it is. That is all it is.
He's a real hater.
Well, folks, let's finish things off with the last comic that we have today, issue number 93, Stringer and Corona. And of course, folks, we're ending things off on the Christmas special. Sonic is forced to spend Christmas in New Tech City in the special zone. Sucks he can't go home, but at least the people here are in spirit. They got proper snow, they got presents, they got carol singers, they even got Santa. That's lovely. And come morning, we see like a dog family opening gifts, and the kid gets exactly what he wanted, which is a costume of insect guy who's just straight up Spider-Man. Like, they're not even like mincing it. It is just straight up Spider-Man.
Wow. I can't believe Spider-Man is real.
Anyway, the kid gets bitten on the hand by some kind of insect, and thinking it was a radioactive insect, thinks he got powers, and jumps out the fucking window with his parents chasing after him. And also, the comic has a disclaimer telling kids don't jump out of open windows. Great, awesome, that's...
Wow, I mean, what even needs to be said, man?
Anyway, Charmy ends up saving the kid from falling as he did not get powers, but is brought down to the street to the Chaotix, and he does insist he got powers and wants to join them, even calling himself Insect Pup. Mighty calls out someone approaching them, a dude made of lava, calling himself the Blazer. The Blazer, wow, okay.
Me when I'm the Blazer, bro. Me when I'm the Blazer.
He's threatening to destroy the city, and seeing as he's on fire, they try to step back to keep themselves from burning up. But the kid shows no fear, approaching Blazer head-on, with Sonic coming in just before he gets burnt. And Sonic introduces himself to the kid by rushing in and dousing the fire with some kicked-up snow, which is at least enough to keep Blazer from burning. And the job is left for the Chaotix to take him down, and is done in by Espio and Mighty, while Sonic is left to find out where that kid ran off to. He hid himself in an alley, crying because he wants to be a hero like them, but they won't let him. And Sonic reassures him, like, look, there are plenty of ways to be a hero without getting into danger. Me and the Chaotix are going to be going to a local children's hospital to deliver gifts. Come with us if you really want to do some good. And then we skip to the hospital, all the kids getting their gifts, and the kids are cheering and welcoming them in. And Sonic even gives this kid here a parting gift to hopefully move past the wild fantasies of getting bitten by radioactive bugs. A can of flea spray. Okay, that's kind of cute, I guess.
I mean, it's cute and pretty funny, so, you know, hey, real respect's real.
I guess so. But you know what? Nice little ending, and actually shows Sonic actually does in fact have a heart, folks.
Sometimes.
Kitching and Elson have written, and Elson doing the art, of course. So now, Plunder and his crew are dealing up with roided up sharks. The captain orders the crew to attack, but obviously they hesitate a little bit. Plunder calls this mutiny, but Fry insists on handling it himself, dragging along Simpson, begging for his life. Fry swings in on the rope, which rigs the main sail, going right into it, and flies right in the middle of the mutated sharks, the sail covering them like a tarp. And the fight goes on for some time, as from underneath, Fry has depowered back into Speckle and just tries to leave the situation, and explains to Plunder that the transformation wears off after some time, which Plunder thinks Simpson is in there fighting all alone. Pleasant. He breaks out the emergency mallet and begins to smash the sailcloth with abandon, which does knock out all the sharks unconscious, with Simpson nowhere to be found. Though, he's actually completely unharmed. He just was hiding in one of the sharks' mouths. They spit out, and the sharks are now turning back to normal. Plunder decides at least they'll make for good snacks before supper. And since it was a long day, asked Simpson to get the vintage rum truffles I was saving up. But Simpson, of course, comes back, says, boss, they vanished. They're gone. As Speckle used that crate to float and self-throw himself back into the city, enjoying the truffles as a snack. Fucked up. Fucked up move.
Very fucked up.
That's a fun little story, at least.
Yeah, I mean, it's cute. It's the nicest thing I can say about it, for sure.
And now, folks, if you thought the last Robotnik story was a little odd, you ain't seen nothing for this one.
Oh, man, I hope you guys are ready for motherfucking Santa Claus to randomly appear in this universe, because...
And emotional damage, too, of course.
Oh, yes, immense emotional damage.
So, Lou Stringer wrote it, and we have a kind of a new artist, Andy Pritchett, here. He's normally a colorist for the comic, but this is his first time doing line art. His other and most notable contribution is to the comic series called Tank Girl, created by Alan Martin and Jamie Hewlett. Don't really know much about it, but there you go.
I'm pretty sure it was popular at one point, but that's pretty much all I know about it.
Yeah, I feel like that there was a movie, or like a TV show. Maybe? I don't know.
There was a movie, I'm pretty sure.
We open in the Emerald Hill Zone, abandoned after the residents evacuated the floating island, except for one, Techno the Canary, hosting a Christmas party for the Freedom Fighters and Short Fuse in her underground lab. Everyone's enjoying themselves. Tails tells Short Fuse that even Robotnik wouldn't do anything on Christmas Day, but Short Fuse isn't so sure about that. Speaking of, we see Robotnik watching some civilians play in the snow, even making a mocking snowman in his likeness. In retaliation for the merrymaking, he will fire a space laser from a satellite which will melt the snow in the Happy Valley zone and flash flood the area. Just before he can press the button, a flash of green light appears before him, and out comes Santa Claus.
Yeah, well, there he is, guys. He's here.
Don't you remember me from when you were a boy, he asks. Robotnik is not a fan of this nonsense and calls his troopers to come in to remove him, but the troopers don't detect another person in the room here, which Santa explains only other living beings can see me. So Robotnik tries to handle this himself, but his hand phases through his body, saying, "My body cannot be grabbed in anger, Ovi." And Robotnik is like rattled when he's called by his old name, saying, No, I'm Dr. Ivo Robotnik. My name is Dr. Ivo Robotnik. Santa says, well, no, you used to be Ovi Kentobor. You were good until a lab accident made you evil. So he makes an offer for Robotnik. Do a good deed for Christmas. Self-destruct that satellite instead of using it for evil. And he's like, well, what's in it for me then? Peace of mind? Well, I want power, not peace. And that deadly satellite is a symbol of my power. I reject your pathetic offer. Well, at the very least, Santa decides to show Robotnik what's happening to his symbol of power right now. It's being destroyed by Short Fuse in no time at all. And once he finishes the job, Robotnik figures, well, seeing as it was destroyed either way, can I still get a present? No. And only offers a warning. Continue the path of destruction, and your empire will fall within the next few months. And as he vanishes, Robotnik thinks, okay, good riddance. I like being evil. I don't need presents. I got power. I'm in charge. I've got no friends on Christmas Day. Very weird ending for Robotnik. The motherfucker just randomly decides to like have a little bit of mortality, a little bit of like normalcy. Very odd.
Yeah, this is pretty strange.
I mean, it's funny in like a very weird sort of way, but like, all right, Robotnik.
All right, I mean, okay, sure, all right, sure, I guess.
But yeah, that's the end of all the comics that we've got going on for. And at the top of the show, when we talked about, our little situation with the comics, I hope you can kind of understand where we're coming from, because the comics, while they are seeing like some level of synergy now, still feel disjointed, and it's a little hard to keep track of like 3 to 4 concurrent plot lines, It
is very tiring when you also have to try and read and dissect these comics for context or information.
Yeah. The changes that we want to make, we're not going to make them just yet, because the next time that we are going to be together for the comics, folks, we're going to be reading issue 100. And from what I understand, that's actually the Fleetway equivalent of the Endgame arc. So I think we're going to have a lot of good stuff to talk about there.
Yep. I hope you guys are excited as we move into some interesting uncharted territory post issue 100, but we will discuss that more next time. As always, if you like what you see here, you can go Patreon us up. We got tiers at $2, $5, and $15. Do we have any new patrons?
Oh, folks, let me tell you, I want to shout out. We got 3 new patrons to shout out. We got a lot of people joining us from back when we were on break. So shout out to Mr. Missing No and Vale, both at $2 a month, and Nakawan at $15 a month. Thank you all so much for joining us. Hope you appreciate the content that's behind the paywall, which of course includes at $2 a month, you get early access to our videos. You get them when they're ready. Also with $2 a month, you get our Another Side, Another Story bonus series where we've been currently reacting to Sonic X. And man, oh man, does it feel good to watch something good.
It's so cozy, man.
Yeah, no, like,
it's listen, man, you know, I'll go on a brief tangent about it because I feel like it's really important. It's so nice that, like, watching Sonic X is just this, like, very comforting, very cozy, like, scenario where, like, the writing is pretty solid. I mean, the animation, it's a little jank, but for the most part, I'm having a really good time, and I'm enjoying myself a lot. It's real good.
Yeah, we're still in the early episodes with Sonic X, so right now we're still in, like, the slice of life territory, but, like, it feels nice to just be able to kick back and relax and just kind of, like, watch the Sonic cast kind of just, like, still trying to figure things out about the situation that they're in.
Yeah, it's very comfortable. I would highly recommend it if you have any interest in Sonic X. It's really good.
Yeah, enjoy our commentary for $2 a month. $5 a month, you get that and our pre-show, which tend to be pretty exciting. We got a lot of things to talk about in that pre-show, man. Jesus Christ. And $15 a month, all that, and a video version of all of our content. So, folks, thank you all so much for watching. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Subscribe if you're listening on Spotify. All the good stuff. Like the video, comment, and we'll see you next time for the big issue 100, the Fleetway Endgame arc. What could that entail? What could that entail?
We will see. We will see. Catch y'all later.